Okay, so first of all, welcome everyone to SheFunds Academy. Today we're going over fix and flip lending, which is probably one of the most popular parts of real estate investments, I would say, is fix and flip lending. So that's going to be where you purchase a home that's in distress, you are rehabbing it, and then you're either selling it or holding it, depending on what your strategy is there. But that's a little bit about the fix and flip side. And then what to expect from today. So, we're going to be talking about what lenders actually care about, why some deals get approved quicker than others, and how to structure deals that lenders want to fund, mistakes that slow investors down, and also how to become a preferred borrower. So, there is going to be a Q&A box within the chat. I will work on we'll work on answering any of those questions and answering any of those questions for you at the end of the webinar. So if you want to put your questions in as it goes, you can, or you can wait until the end of it and we'll be addressing them all there. But yeah, perfect. We'll go ahead and just get started. She Funds Academy is for women who are interested in being in the real estate sector, primarily looking to become account managers, loan officers, or even investors themselves. So we have a whole community of women, about I think 100, 120 at the moment. We kind of all congregate within this WhatsApp group that I'm again going to share at the end of the call. And yeah, our main goal here is just to educate women in real estate and to help build the women percentage in real estate too. So okay, there we go. We are first going to go over and talk with Trixie. And so, first off, who is Trixie? So, we got Trixy Castro here today, someone who I'm very excited to hear from and for everyone else to hear from as well. But, Trixie, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Trixy Castro. I'm very excited to be here. I'm a huge proponent of real estate and lending. That's been my entire career path. So super excited to get to chat with everyone, tell you a little bit about my story and be of any help that I can.
Amazing. Yay. Um, yeah, I'm excited to hear everything that you have to offer for us today. Okay, so I guess, Trixie, let's just get started from the get go.
Okay,
Let's see,
perfect.
where'd you come from? How'd you get involved with real estate? And what led you here?
Okay, so it's a very interesting story. My parents came here from Cuba, and my sisters and I were born here. But when I was 3 years old, my mom answered an ad in a newspaper ad, an actual a job. Just what? How was it back then? Right? You'd look at the newspaper, and it was for a live-in housekeeping job. So we go to these complete random strangers' house, who also was an immigrant family from Italy, and we move in that same night. She gets the job, we move in. I mean, it was absolutely surreal, and it was the best experience I could have ever had because we moved into their guest house. And at 3 years old, what I saw was, wow, this is what's possible. We live here, they live there. What did they do to be able to accomplish that? And it turns out that they had come from Italy. He had started in banking and invested in real estate. Fast forward all these years, that exposure actually resonated with me. And that's where a lot of my passion for home ownership and for revitalizing neighborhoods really came from. At 14 years old, we moved. We got our first house, and I made cheer and soccer. And each team was, I don't know, $1,000 to me. I was just sharing this story the other day. And all of a sudden, I make it. And now I have to come up with $1,000 per sport, mind you. For us at that time, $2,000 would have been like winning the lottery. There was zero chance that that was ever going to happen or that I would put my parents under that pressure. So I thought, okay, let me go and earn it. Again, best thing that could have ever happened to me. Why? Because I had to look and say, okay, what resources do I have today? I'm 14. I don't have a car. I don't have a worker's permit. But what I do have is I have two younger sisters who have Crayola magic markers and paper. So I made Trixie's Tutor Time business cards, and I went across the street to their elementary school and I explained to the principal, went right to the source and said, hey, listen, this is my business, blah, blah, blah. Started my tutoring company. and within 30 days was making more cash than both my parents combined, and realized, okay, this is cool. Now I can hire my mom to be my driver, and I can expand and take on a second school. And I share that with you because in today's environment, you got to get creative like that, right? You got to look to see, what resources do I have? Not, okay, I'm in this situation. No, absolutely not. We are so lucky, right, that we have the opportunity that we have. And so, anyway, I decided, okay, this making money thing with Trixie's Tutor Time, super cool. Let me go figure out how real money is made. So I walked into a Wells Fargo branch and I asked them for a job. And they were like, what? And they asked me, are you 18? I said, no, I'm not even 18. I'm 17 at the time. They give me the job. It's funny because I was just meeting with Wells today. They give me the job, I become the teller, and I am truly the world's worst teller. Like, so bad, you guys. And you have to try to be bad because there's like 3 buttons, like cash a check, withdrawal, deposit. And I couldn't get it right. Why? Because I was so busy talking to the depositors. I was trying to understand where these largest depositors came from. And that was my first, again, exposure to this real estate fix and flip game. So there was the real estate groups, the gamblers, and the tech groups. Those were the 3 largest depositors. And I thought, okay, not trying to go to jail for counting cards. Tech is really new. Real estate it is. So I wanted to understand, why were they asking me at the time for wads of cashier's checks? And they were hiring kids my age to go and be the runner. At that time, the distress inventory was being moved in the courthouse steps, like literally physically outside of the courthouse steps. And so I thought that's really interesting because what these tech guys are doing over there, if you combined the two, that could actually be a thing. So long story short, I realized that there is this niche at the time. These groups are out there and they're going to the courthouse steps and they're buying, with wads of cashier's checks, they're buying distressed real estate, they're fixing them up, and they're selling them. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of lenders. Obviously, the conventional banks couldn't do it, right, because of the way they're structured. And so I thought, this is really interesting. This is a niche. Let's go build it. So I get a meeting with the CEO of Wells Fargo, and I'm so excited. And he thinks that I'm there to babysit his kids. And I'm like, okay, no, I'm your actual meeting. So this is where I think being young and having stars in your eyes helps you, because I tell him the entire plan, which later became a company called Genesis Capital. Okay. What I heard was, that's a great idea, Trixie, go build it. What he probably said was, why are you here? Who got you in? Right. But either way, what I heard was, go do it. So that's exactly what I set out to do. So got a ratty old desk from my mom's office, or garage, I should say, and started my business. And that was going to be Genesis Capital, a phone, a desk, and me. And here I'm thinking, wow, this is an incredible opportunity. I have to go raise the money. I have to, first of all, understand the deals better than anybody. I have to walk every single project. I have to look at every single construction budget. I have to make sure I understand every single piece of this, because my job is to make these investors money. So to make a long story short, created a company called Genesis Capital. My first employee you guys had on last month, which was Brittany, redheaded Brittany. She was 14 years old working for a prom dress, right? And after I like, wait, what are you doing? Who are you going to the prom with? Where's your mom? What's happening, right? She comes on board. Then we get busy. We hire her best friend, Brittany, also still with me. I mean, so it's a really cool thing because we've all remained such good friends through the years. But with that little engine that became a company that I went on to sell to Goldman Sachs. So during that entire transition, it was, okay, become the best private money lender you can. Understand the space better than everybody. Figure out how to get the best returns. Understand it so that I'm adding value for my borrowers. Understand it so that they're now looking at their portfolios and expanding them. And then I was realizing, wait a second, if the inventory is limited, that is their problem, but that becomes a me problem. So how do I get in front of that, right? And so what I started to realize was, I could be the best lender and do all the things correctly, but if my borrowers didn't have the inventory, what was I going to lend money on? Right? So how do I get in front of that? And so that's where I started to realize, like, you can be reactive or you can be proactive in industries and in markets. So put together Genesis Auctions, which later became Hudson and Marshall. which later I sold to Fidelity National Title. So I'm fast forwarding to the end, but I'm just sharing that with you guys because the journey is where the real meat and potatoes is, right? But in the end, it's really cool because was able to sell both companies to two behemoths within 9 months of each other. But back to the difficult parts, right? To the beginning, to the messy middle. It was hard. It wasn't easy. It was, okay, how do I make sure that I have my own business challenges, but let me make sure that my borrowers, my clients, my customers, that I understand their challenges. How can I safeguard against that? And how can I, as a lender, make sure I don't get stuck holding the bag, right? Because I can't afford them to make a mistake. And because I'm just trusting what they're saying and not verifying, the world falls apart, and then I'm stuck holding the bag. So it was a lot of that, and it was a lot of understanding. So on one side of the house, on the auction company, my job there is to understand the assets that the banks and servicers hold, right? What is it really? What's the real value? Where did the bank go sideways? What happened to create this disaster, right? And then how do I take that and package it in a way so that this buying group over here can actually have the necessary information to be able to purchase these assets and then do something with them, right? Fix them up, flip them, fix them up and hold them, whatever the case may be. So that was a job on that one. On the other side, I was the private money lender. I got to lend and make sure I don't get stuck holding the bag. Pretty simple. So really got to understand that and thought, okay, let me know each area. Went and opened up all the 50 markets, did all the things, and really learned, you guys, as great as this story is, really learned what not to do. Okay, so if you have an issue, I've done it, I've made it, just call me, I got you. Because I really had to learn what not to do. I was doing this. I was doing the best I could, right? But I was limited in what I knew. And it wasn't the type of resources that there are today. It was really cool to learn it that way, though, because you understand every piece of the process. And I share that with you because I think in real estate and in lending, understanding every piece of the process, whether you're responsible for it or not, is actually a way to win in the game, right? Because then you're not having the types of surprises and curveballs that other people are. And if you do, you know how to be able to work through them.
Yeah.
Sorry, quick sip there.
It's okay.
So yeah, so that was what I did. Sold the two companies. It was really great. Had an amazing time in building, and then was kind of like, now what? Right? Like nobody prepares you for that. You're like, oh, this is really cool. She sold to Goldman and Fidelity National Title. Really, really cool. That's amazing. I'm so grateful. But now what? Now I have these non-competes every which way to Sunday when you sell a company, which basically means do not pass go, do not collect $200. And what am I supposed to do? I'm not going to not answer my phone, but I'm going to honor my word, right? So I went to Europe and thought, okay, what am I missing? Because I was restricted in America. What am I missing? What can I create back in the US when my non-competes are over? What can I look at? What am I now able to take the time to learn? And so when you look at kind of real estate and financing as a whole, you see a lot of commonalities between all of it, but you also see a lot of commonalities in businesses and in good business practices. At that time, I had such limited exposure, right? It was just me building my companies that as I started to let myself develop and expand, I started to realize, wow, this is really cool. There's a lot of really cool business practices that translate different industries and different environments. Let me see if I can, kind of jump in and learn that. And then kind of woke up one day and realized I had invested in 50 other entrepreneurs. It was never like a set thing. It was just I saw myself in them and was like, hey, I've been through that. I know what that's like. I understand, do these 5 things, right? And so that kind of started to evolve into a whole lot of different things, put together really cool real estate with some partners, put together some really neat things that I was super excited about. A lot of organizations where they know what they need to do, but they don't know how to get to that next step. And we were able to solve for that. And so today, working on a lot of that, working on some charity stuff, working on a educational platform that launches April 2nd. So next week. So that'll be really cool. So lots of exciting things, but all of it always going to be a lender. I can't help myself. The minute those non-competes were up, I was like, okay, let's go.
Nice, I love that. So what was the, I guess, timeline between when you started Genesis Capital and to when you sold? What was that,
10
I guess, how
years.
many years? 10 years?
10 years, yeah, 10 years, but I had given myself a good 2 years before that to really learn the space, but I officially started Genesis, in 2007 and sold in 2017.
How was that beginning stages with the entire, financial crisis that was happening then?
Terrible.
Yeah.
There's no other way to say it, right? So here the world is falling apart. Literally, there's banks going out of business every single day. In massive exodus in the space. You've got the world kind of going crazy, people making predictions that predictions seemed faint in comparison to what was actually happened. Then you have Madoff, then you have all these different things. And here I am, this young girl with zero experience in capital markets, not an Ivy League education, and say, hi, can I please, take hundreds of millions? Wait, just kidding. Billions of dollars. I swear I'll put it into the market and I'll do a really good job. Wasn't going to fly. So it was, again, such an incredible experience for me to be able to kind of have all of these hurdles stacked up against me. And how do you overcome them, right? How do you, in a catastrophic type of event like that, come through it on the other side and say, no, we built something really cool. And at the same time, we're also able to revitalize a lot of neighborhoods and really take a lot of pride in that. But it was really tough because I had nothing to compare it to. There
Yeah.
wasn't like I could reference a book or a time in history when that had happened or a person that had lived through something like that. So it was really a lot of kind of Lone Ranger trying to figure out and just taking a step back and saying, okay, let me think this through. If this is what's happening today, if I can take the panic out of it, what do I need to really focus on so I don't miss the ball? Right. So I was able to really hone in and start to really develop some of those skills that helped me later on throughout my career in a significant way.
Yeah, yeah. So after, I guess it's been how many years since 2007, 2008? We're coming up on almost 20 years since you've been a part of the industry. Um, if you had to ballpark it, how many deals have you seen across your desk?
Oh my gosh. I mean, so I have billions because I know I can tell you that I've placed in debt and equity well over 25 billion easily. In just in the US alone, did a lot of stuff in Europe as well and really enjoyed it. But I said a lot of no's too. I'll tell
Yeah,
you that. I said a lot of no's. To be good, you have to be able to say no, right? And figure out how to say that without losing the client, without losing and without killing what they're doing, right? Unless it needs to be. But it was great. So you name it, I've seen it. And keep in mind on the auction side, I also saw a lot of the banks and servicers massive issues, right? So I was in the thick of it with them, helping them resolve that and understand how we got here. How big is this problem? And then how do we solve for it? So that's not an easy task, but it really gave me a very good bird's eye view of, what this can look like. So we need to, work backwards from there.
yeah. Wow. I said I was gonna do the Q&A at the end, but Janine's got a couple good questions for you, Trixie, so I'll go
Yes.
ahead and get those going. So first one is, did some banks tell you no? Which banks are good to go to for your first loan? And was it warehouse financing that you got? I'll put the question on the screen.
So, did some banks tell me no? Absolutely. There were no banks that were going to give me a yes. This was before it was a thing, right? So, there was no securitization models. We were actually the first to kind of bring that out. So it was go raise the money. Okay. So it was go figure that piece out and then go leverage that portfolio, right? Because what the answer was at the time was your loans are too quick. There were 6 months and below. So they didn't want to securitize paper. They were, you know what I mean? It was took a while
Yeah.
for Wall Street to understand. And so it took a while, but that was good. It was, when you pioneer something, you really have to be willing to have thick skin and be able to say, well, wait, let me explain it to you differently. Right. So yes, there was tons of no's. And then once we got the yes, it was with Oak Tree Capital out of downtown. They were phenomenal. They gave me my first 250 million in equity. I have the little deal toy somewhere here in my office. I'll show it to you guys. But then you have to take that's great and that sounds amazing. But then you have to take that and to turn it into billions. So how do you do that, right? When you're not able to securitize. Eventually we got there, which was a really momentous occasion and really exciting, but we had to leverage our own portfolio. So yes, there was a lot of no's. It wasn't so much that the banks didn't understand, it was the industry as a whole didn't fully understand fix and flip lending. Now it's a thing. Now it's an asset class. Now it's a lot of people are really in the space and a lot of really smart people are in the space and being able to move it. So we had to be very selective. A lot of my underwriting wasn't just of the asset, it was also of the borrower and really understanding where their capital stack came from, right? Were
Yeah.
they incentivized because they had a hurdle that was impossible? Or were they incentivized where it could actually be structured correctly as a deal with my debt component? So again, understanding the entire process, whether I'm responsible for it or not, as a debt
Mhm.
and equity component.
Mhm. Mhm. Wow. And then as far as your you raising money, where were your sources from? Like, was it from individuals that you just knew personally? Did you raise a fund? How did that kind of look?
Okay, so I told you we're my environment. So between my friends and I in college, we probably had $10 to scrap together, right? I didn't know high net worth individuals. So it was, you have to figure it out. And at the time, there was no playbook. There wasn't, I couldn't call Janine and say, hey, how do I do this? I had to figure this out on my own. And so honestly, I would go to different groups like the Rotary Club, like a deli, and I would just come up and talk to people and be like, "Hey, do you invest in real estate?" I know that's gutsy, but what else? What other option did I have, right? And so it's so funny. I was just filming on this the other day. There's a deli right down 2 miles from my house, and I would go there, and I had a one particular booth, and I would just talk to people. And in my head, I knew condition yourself, Trixie, to hear pitch, 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 close, pitch, 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 close. It didn't matter the nose. It was that I was going to close something, right? So yes, I went to high net worth individuals, then family offices, then got on a plane, went to Wall Street, did the whole thing. So every single piece to get to the institutional capital stack.
Mhm. Wow. So saw a vision and you just executed it, which is so I think refreshing to hear. We talk about this all the time in the office, how like people really try and like build their business based off of what people on TikTok are saying or what ChatGPT is saying. And it's not the most like actual boots on the ground practical things. Like a lot of people, we've been having a lot of discussions recently about the 100% financing that a lot of companies do, where us as Simple Lending, we don't do 100% financing. And there's a reason why for it. So it's people like I don't know, I just see so many people that are coming into the market new, fresh, no experience, and they're expecting so much from lenders and so much from the industry as well because of what TikTok kind of says is like, oh, it's as easy as one, two, three, but it's not as easy as one, two, three. You got to get your boots down.
No,
You got to talk to people.
100% and know the area. And I'm so glad that you as a lender do it that way because let me tell you what made me good in business was being able to stop, forget what everybody else is doing and do what I thought was right and the most right thing for the business. If someone has zero skin in the game, right, and zero experience, the chances of something going sideways and hurting you and impacting your business are very, very high. So I looked at everything from a numbers perspective. And when I looked at it, I thought that's too big of a risk. And why would I want to do that? I am not looking to bail people out of a situation. I'm looking to build relationships with operators that really want to get in there and understand the space, right? That really want to do this as a long term, not like as a get rich quick because they saw it on. And I agree with you. It's now crazy. And, there's so many people that are building their business and they have a microphone and perhaps they shouldn't have a microphone just yet, right? So I think it's a lot of look at the source, look at their track record. What can they what can they add in value? And there's, especially in real estate, there's got to be a level of seasonality to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this leads us into our next point of oops, it's not going through. There we go. What are you seeing in the market right now? So when it comes to the market, obviously you've kind of been through the thick of it. You've seen it from the beginning and then to how it is now. What are you seeing in the market? What are you seeing that investors are doing right now that is causing deals to fail?
I'm seeing that their bad habits are coming to light now.
Okay.
Okay, so people think, oh my gosh, where's this crystal ball? Well, yes, I hear you. I hear them say that, but really it's what you do every single day and the business practices that you have. Point being the example you gave earlier, right? If someone has very little or no skin in the game, zero experience, that's a recipe for a hard time. So what can they do? Can they align with someone who is seasoned? Can they learn? Can they earn their stripes, right? And can they get really good at the thing? And
Mhm.
so a lot of people, what happened was they didn't take the time to get really good at the thing. They just went from here to here. Well, sure, on an up market, my 5-year-old can do a great job because it's an up market, right? So you don't have to look at the world in the same way of what if, right? And you have to have a little bit of that what if mentality to be successful in real estate. So, what I'm seeing happening is some of these bad habits, a lot of these bad habits are now coming to light, which translates into more opportunity. Okay. So when you see these bad habits and people's behaviors are very, very repetitive, very cyclical, you can really almost like track it with data of, okay, if they did this here, chances are it's going to happen again. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity in the bad habits. So I think people tend to get really scared with like noise, right? And I understand that. I am had to work really hard, like I was sharing earlier, to take a step back and say, okay, what is it that's really going on, right? What are the real core issues here, and where do I need to focus my attention? And if you can do that, you can take a step back and you can say, okay, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of things going on, but there's a lot of bad habits that were made that now it's time, right? Someone's going to have to pay the piper, so to speak. And so there's opportunity there. And I think you can almost see it in regions. So I think that as you look at the market and you see the opportunity, sure, it might look a little different than it did 4 years ago. Of course, it's supposed to. It's a different market cycle, right? It's supposed to look different. But if you stick to your good habits and principles and you don't deviate, to me, that decision making and that market discipline is really critical because that applies to your success or not. It directly correlates every single time to your success or not in an up, a down market every single time. And I think that's a really big piece that I personally look for, but it's also a big piece that I see on a very large scale where there's opportunity.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. On the flip side of that, what do you see that works? So, I'm assuming probably something that's gonna be, like, as easy as 1, 2, 3. You get the distressed home, not too much, not doing too much onto it, not doing, like, a luxury finish on it. I'm assuming that that's probably what
Hmm.
works the most, right?
Yeah.
But I guess we can go even more into it, like, what regions are you seeing as kind of working and, moving the best? Because I know typically, it's gonna be California, Texas, Florida, New York, New Jersey. Those are the biggest markets that we know of in with real estate. But outside of that, is there any other markets that you're looking at?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's markets and there's pockets everywhere, right? And I know everyone tells you that, but I think it's really looking at those pockets and the tertiary markets really closely because people tend to look in the flock areas, right? In the big metros, and I get that. And that's what I would call the low-hanging fruit. Look, I started my companies in LA. Why? Because that's where I lived, right?
Mhm,
So I understood the metros, but really looking at the tertiary markets and really kind of working backwards of what are the new jobs, the big, big, big jobs coming in? What do the school districts look like? Really kind of looking at the entire little ecosystem in that region I have found to be really, really successful because then you're looking at the stability of the overall area, right? So you're looking at the neighborhoods, you're looking at what can happen. But to your point earlier, I 100% tell people all the time keep it as simple as possible. I know we all watch these great reality TV shows that are amazing and all the things, but when you continue to go bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, you miss the simple stuff back to those habits, right? So keeping it simple, keeping it as low low cost in the beginning so that you're really creating your process so that you could hand that process to the next person and they could implement that process, then you can scale it and stick to your area. A lot of areas, a lot of times where I see investors come in, they come in regardless of where they are, right, in their career. They do maybe one, two, three, four, and they have some good wins. And that's amazing and that's great. So keep doing that. Right. Instead, what happens is, oh, well, if I did it here, I can do it here. And that can be in a different asset type or it can be in a different area. And that's a big no, especially in a climate right like today's. You have to really understand where you're at because you may be doing New York, where their laws are going to be very different on a regional level than, say, Mississippi, right? And so you're thinking it's the same. Well, if I'm doing it here, it must be the same. It's absolutely not, not
Right.
even to mention the permit process, right? And so I'm telling you this from experience because I figured, oh, well, if I'm underwriting and doing loans throughout the country, to be very simple to do the same as an operator, and it's not.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
really sticking to the markets that you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I see that a lot with, I mean, we're, our office is based in Texas, in Houston, so we see a lot of deals that are within Houston. And if you know Houston, Harris County itself is, it's doesn't have any zoning restrictions. So you'll see like odds and ends of homes next to each other, next to a bar, next to, I mean, a strip club, next to a convenience store. You see all of it. And then we even see a lot of homes that are, or well, they're office buildings being almost like transitioned into homes, or the vice versa. I live right behind a house that is. It was remodeled into being an office space. So getting to know that within Harris County and Houston, like it helps me personally a lot, helping my investors understand like what they maybe like can and can't do in the area, or what it will take to do something like that. Because a lot of people too, when going into flips, especially first timers, they don't know that it comes with the plans and the permits. They don't know that you have to have all of these things. So, yeah, the education part of that, knowing what you're getting into and being able to, like, as a lender, educate your clients on that, I think helps build trust with them,
Yeah.
and help just help them just in general. I love being able to give education and being able to help my clients as much as I can. But we will go right into, what or how Trixie evaluates deals. So, as a lender, well, really, as like a mortgage company, I think that there's a lot of people that get stuck with private lender versus conventional lender. So, conventional side, we're always looking at the credit, the income, like those kind of things, those like paper kind of deals. And then when it comes to private lending, it's different. We look at the asset, we look at the experience, the liquidity, the credit. So, how, when you're evaluating a deal, what is the first thing that you're looking at?
So let me take a step back and kind of walk you through how I look at a deal as a lender, as a investor,
Hmm.
as a developer, all the things, right? Because
Absolutely.
I think there's some basic kind of things. And I think number one, I look at relationship because what you just described to me of how you like to educate and help your investors is critical, right? And I think that's baseline. That's number one. The fact that you care about your investors and you understand, okay, I've got to help them make more money. I've got to help them safeguard against mistakes. I've got to help them with their timelines. That is everything because real estate is cyclical. There's always going to be this, right?
Yeah.
But to have those relationships to me are critical because anyone can make a loan, anyone can do a deal. It doesn't mean it's going to be a good one. Like if you just, you know what I mean, free money is free money.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's very different. So I think the relationship is really critical. So I do look at it as a very holistic thing, right? So what is your goal? What is mine? Are we aligned? What is your area of expertise? What is mine? Right? So I really look at the relationship and I look at what I feel like the caliber of the person or the group is. Meaning, are they in there trying to really do their best, trying to really learn, really dive in, roll up their sleeves? Are they somebody, okay, that I want to hitch my wagon to when times get tough? Are they going to go do the thing to make it right? And that question alone answers so much, right? And I think that's a big difference when you think about an investor or when you think about raising money or you think about going and doing a deal or you think about who your partners are going to be it as a lender, title, whatever. You really want to form that team for yourself yourself being the biggest lead of that, if you will, of really creating a relationship that's a win-win-win for everybody. Okay. So I look at that piece and then I look at the experience and the track record because you want to have they been successful in real estate? Have they been successful in something, right? Have they? And I think there's a piece to that because we live in a world where everybody's an expert at everything. Everyone's a
Mhm.
pro, everyone's an expert, and you kind of have to dial that back a little bit and say, okay, show me. And there's a track record. The track record is the show me part. Show me how you've been successful. And I think we have to have that show me mentality a little bit because there are deals. There's lots of great deals, but it's going to come down in a market like this into who has those disciplines like clockwork. Who is not going to deviate from that behavioral discipline? And that's such a key part because real estate can be so emotional. Of course, it's tied to big dollars. Anytime you get big dollars, you get big emotions, right? And so I think that you have to kind of take a look at that and say, okay, I understand these are, big numbers. That's okay. What I'm looking at is not just the return that can be made, but let's think of how we minimize and mitigate the risk. Has this person done this specific area in this asset type multiple times and have they done it well? Have they made money at it? Okay. Because me doing a fix and flip is very different in a single family residence than me going and doing a ground up construction multifamily. I can tell you that I know because I had success over here and I can tell you, but Sydney, it's on the same block. They're side by side. Doesn't
Mhm.
matter. It's not apples to apples. So I think looking at it apples to apples and have they done that well? And if they've done that well and now they're expanding their model, okay, let's crawl, walk, run. Let's not just go from I did 10 fix and flip single family and now I'm going to go to a 700 unit ground up multifamily trophy property, right? Like let's do it in a very systematic way where you can show me that your process and your disciplines have maintained their integrity, right? And so that's a big part of it. So I think it's just kind of almost like critically thinking it through. If I was doing it, if you were doing it, what were the things that you would need? Like so many times as a lender, especially not having a point of reference that I could say, oh, but that group's doing it. Oh, but that group's doing it because we grew really fast once we started growing. It had to be a lot of critical thinking of, okay, what could go wrong? So when I kind of adopt that what could go wrong mentality, I'm going to lean in on, okay, yes, they know their skill set, they know their trade. Okay, now let's look at the market conditions. Now let's look at the asset class. What could go wrong? And if it went wrong, how much of a risk is that to us? Right. And so when you look at it that way, it kind of takes some of this like, well, it's a process and I checked these 5 boxes. And it's because I checked these 5 boxes, it works on paper. Yeah, but that's not real life. Right. And so you can watch it on the internet all day, every day. We can make it as shiny of a toy as possible. But at the end of the day, that's not how you actually make money in real estate. Right. Each deal
Yeah.
has to stand on its own.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Um, what are okay, just like quick answers on these ones. What is something that makes you immediately say yes to a deal and what was something that would make you pass right away?
Track record would make me pass right away. Seeing, did they buy it right would make me say yes. Did they buy it right and can I improve it? Is there room for improvement? If you're giving me the nicest house on the block, no, I want to live there. I don't want to invest in it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. Amazing. I guess we'll go right into what makes a fix and flip work. Let me there you go. What makes a fix and flip work? So deals that fail, I think we've kind of talked about that a lot, right? With the bad planning, bad contractors, doing like emotional purchases. So I've
Hmm.
even had someone recently, they bought their father passed and it was getting auctioned off. So they bought that home, but that home was in terrible shape.
Mm.
So emotional purchase, right? So it was borderline rural. They didn't have that much funds to fix it up. And then now they're trying to refinance it and they don't even have the money to completely fix it up to do the refinance, which is kind of like in turn causing their deal to almost fail. And then things that make deals work is having the conservative ARV, having the liquidity reserves, having the experienced subcontractors as well. And I think that there's a lot of things that can go right, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong. And I think a good discussion question for us right here is, if you could eliminate one mistake that investors make, what would it be?
They're too confident in their numbers.
Mm, yeah,
That's a huge thing because they think because they hit it that way 1 or 2 times that it's always gonna be that way. You can never be too confident in your numbers.
yeah,
Never, never, never. You gotta make room. You gotta make room for all the timeline adjustments, for weather conditions, for government and municipalities. You've gotta make adjustments, and I think that a sign for me that someone hasn't lived the real estate cycle in a really operator kind of boots on the ground way is if they're so rigid on their numbers that they're just not really accounting for reality.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I think too, yeah, like planning for the what ifs. People don't do that enough. I have people give me budgets and the budgets are light and they're like, "Well, I don't need more money." I'm like, "But what if? What if you do? Like, do you
Yeah.
not want this free money that I'm offering you? Like, what if you end up needing 5,000 more dollars? Like, it's there for your safety net." But people sometimes they don't want to do that. They want to be too conservative, or
Yeah.
they're concerned about the closing costs, the origination that's going based off of the loan amount. So they don't want the loan amount to go any higher. But in the end, it's just we're just trying to help you because worst case scenario, 6 months you run out of money for whatever reason. And a huge conversation that everyone was having a year and a half ago was about the tariffs. No one knew what was going to happen about the tariffs. And so as lenders, we had to kind of like work with borrowers to adjust their budgets to have room for that if there was gonna be,
Yeah.
increases in the wood cost, increases in, like, in everything possible, and I think some people were resistant to it, they didn't wanna do it, and then some people were overly overly putting those budgets together, and then some people were even stuck, like, they didn't plan for it. So
Mhm.
they're 6 months into their loans and then thinking about the tariffs and scared about that. Yeah, I think numbers is the name of the game with flips, really.
100%. And you mentioned so many good points. I mean, on all of it, right? And it's really adjusting for your cost. Is your cost of capital going to change? Is your cost of equity? What does your equity stack look like, right? Are they going to call it on you? Is it going to go up? You know, all of that, not to mention your lumber and your cost of hard materials, but also the piece that people don't always look at is we're trained with this kind of warped thinking to think that, well, if on a piece of paper I ask for less, then my budget and my deal is going to actually come in at that. It's almost like this magical thinking, and then I'm going to make more revenue and more dollars. Well, that's great in a story. That's amazing in a story, but that's not real life. So, one of the things that I've done historically is I've said to groups, okay, now let's be really honest with ourselves. Let's look at our last 15 deals. I'm not even asking for the last 15 months. I'm just saying, let's look at the last 15 deals and then that's too overwhelming. Okay, let's look at the last 8 deals, and that's too overwhelming. Okay, let's look at the last 6 deals. Take the last 6 deals that you've done and show me how you've gone under budget because I guarantee you it is not every single time. It's a low percentage. And if you actually do the exercise over the last 15 deals, there's always, oh, but this happened. Oh, but that happened. Yes, you have to factor that in on your numbers. It's not a bad thing to ask for more and to have more wiggle room. All it does is make you a better, more efficient operator. It's not like this credit mentality where you think, oh my God, it's a gift card. It's going to burn a hole in my pocket. I need to go spend it today. That's the wrong kind of mindset to have to be successful in real estate. Gift card, need to go spend it today. Keep that in its lane for gift cards. Go do that. That's amazing for gift cards,
Mhm,
not for real estate, right? So
mhm.
I break it down really simple because I've lived this for 20 years, you know what I mean? And so I've seen it all. And I think when people can really take a step back and say, wait a second, I need to actually put buffers on my budgets, both in timeline and in hard dollars. That makes you more successful. Of course, you always try to shrink that and you don't go over inflating it. But really, when you look at it, a pro forma is just your best educated guess. So really make it that.
Yeah, I think too, people I mean, back to, like, the TikTok of it all is that people, they listen to TikTok a little too much, they listen to ChatGPT a little too much. People not even real people, they're listening trying to listen to robots on, like, what they should be putting an ARV to, what they should be putting their budget to, things like that. They're not actually getting the actual tactical evidence of what's needed to execute and to get the numbers that you wanna see.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And I think that that's being that boots on the ground and having that mentality and remembering like AI and tech, they're tools. They're tools to help us. But even data, you have to make sure the data you're getting is actually in real time and is today, not 6 months ago. Because
Yeah.
most of the time when you see the data, it's like, 6 months ago. Well, the whole world's changed. The
Mhm.
whole world's changed. And so by the time it comes to you, it's very different. Whereas you could physically go drive there and see, oh, there's a school. Oh, there's another new place coming in. Oh, there's this. So some of this you have to touch and feel it, right? Even though we want to do everything quickly. And believe me, I'm the queen of wanting to be efficient and wanting to utilize all of these really cool tools. And I do, but still keeping that, like keeping my head on straight about it, really understanding they're tools. They're not the end all be all.
Yeah. Yeah, they're absolutely tools. They give you the guideline not the guidelines, but they give you the roadmap,
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
what should happen, and yeah, there's just that's how it
Yeah.
should be, is used as
Yeah.
tools.
It's a really great way to organize your thoughts, but remember, it's still your thoughts, right? It's still
Yeah.
your doing. And I'm the biggest proponent. I use AI, I use tech, I use data in all my businesses, and it makes me better. But I still have to know what I'm talking about. I
Yeah.
still have to go do the thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I had one last slide here, but I'm actually gonna skip over it because I think we've already discussed the point. So the point was, how to work with lenders. I think people probably know by now how to kinda work with us, what we wanna see, and,
Hmm.
how we want you to present things. So we'll move on to the, Q&A section. Well, after okay, there we go. So we have how and where does one start from on the screen? How and where does one start from? Let's talk one part, how do you start from to just kind of even become a lender and then maybe start from like where do you start as a flipper?
Okay, so I think the starting point for both is the same place. Analyze deals. You have to know what you're trying to either go and do from an equity or of a debt perspective. Either way, you have to start with analyzing deals. And you can absolutely teach yourself, but it's really great to go and talk to other pros in each area, right? So go and talk to fix and flip groups, fix and hold groups, talk to people, talk to GCs, talk to everybody, and just not talk, but actually verify, right? Get in there and roll up your sleeves and talk to them. Okay, where did your last few deals go wrong? Why? How did it change? How did the market change? It's kind of like the shaking hands and kissing babies. Kind of got to get out there and do it for yourself to see how it's being done. Because at the end of the day, real estate is an asset. Whether you're going to go and develop it, whether you're going to lend money on it, whether you're going to invest in it, doesn't really matter. It's still the same basis that you have to do, right? So being able to go and talk to professionals that are good in their areas and in their distinct piece and understanding that not no one is going to be a jack of all trades and be great at every single piece of it, right? So the really good groups, they understand where they excel and they stick to that. Doesn't mean they
Yeah.
don't dabble in other areas, but they make a business out of where they're good at it. But I would say get out there and start to learn your local market. When you're driving, when you're talking to people, when you see houses going for sale, talking to your local professionals and understanding where the lion's share of their concentrated volume is at the moment and where their challenges are. Those two things right there tell you so much, right? So I think understanding deals and then working backwards is a really good starting point because you're going to start to see and ask questions naturally that kind of get you to that next level.
Mhm, mhm. I think people are way more willing to give their experience and give their knowledge to people than we actually think. So I personally at least think that people wanna hold it, they don't want to share, they don't want other people to become competition or anything like that, but people are just way more willing to be a mentor, be like, invite you to coffee and talk and
Right.
all of that than you think that they are.
Absolutely. And to share their service, right? So if someone calls you and says, hey, I want to get into this fix and flip game and I want my goal is to get to X amount of loans for you to fund, you're going to talk to them and you're going to try and help them as best as you can. And I think people are very willing to do that if you're coming to them in the right approach.
Yeah, definitely. Diana had a question. We'll just, I guess, do like one quick point here. If you were, whoops, it went away. If you were starting Genesis Capital today in this market, what would you do differently?
What would I do differently? So I think that it's very different. When I started Genesis Capital, I stuck to one thing because the market was fix and flip, right? So I stuck to that one kind of asset class, that one type of lending, because that's really all there was. If I were to do it again, I would take a holistic view and take a step back and look at all the asset classes from a borrower's perspective. Meaning, if my client is getting into the game as a wholesaler, okay, fix and flipper, okay, then they're now doing some fix and hold off of their portfolio. Now they want to try up some ground. I would want to be able to, from the beginning, understand the entire process and service that so that the entire life cycle of the borrower is with me.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I love that. And then we have one last question from Jessica. What are the steps you would take now to raise private money for your first deal?
The steps I would take now to raise private money would be the exact same steps I took before, right? So I went to high net worth that were already familiar with real estate because I looked at the world and thought, okay, if I have to teach someone why this is important, that's going to be harder for me, right? But a lot of high net worths have some sort of background in real estate investing or have had a real estate acquisition of their own, meaning they own their own home. So they're familiar with the process versus somebody who it's like you're not even speaking the same language. So I would still definitely look at high net worth individuals. I would absolutely talk to them, right? There's so many different ways to do that now. And people are really open about, hey, I want to invest in real estate, but I don't want to have to go do it all. So it's a little bit easier of a conversation because you already know that they want it versus like walking up to somebody and like, hey, do you invest in real estate? Right. So, but I would absolutely high net worth individuals that have some sort of familiarity with real estate are 100% people that they want you to win. They're rooting for you because they want to make a return.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Amazing. Thank you, Trixie. I think that's it for our Q&As. On the chat room, Janine left your website, Trixie. So if anyone wants to reach out to you, you can reach out through your website. And then Janine also dropped my email address as well if anyone wants to ask any more questions or anything like that. And then I dropped the WhatsApp group, the Instagram channel or Instagram page if anyone wants to follow us as well as the Facebook group. And then I have one last thing on here too. It's just the QR code for the WhatsApp group. So if you're not able to get the link, you can just scan the QR code and join the group. And we'll all be over there for any questions or anything like that. Or if you miss Trixie's website, I can send you her email and you can get a hold of her directly there too. But yeah, Trixie, any last comments or words that you wanna leave everyone with?
Listen, I'm a big proponent of real estate. If you want to establish your financial roots, real estate is 100% the way to go. And 100% educate yourself, get out there, align yourself with the right people, but get in the game. The worst thing you can do is just, wait till the perfect moment. There's no perfect moment. Just get in the game and educate yourself and align yourself with the right people. There's so many communities out there like this one willing to help, willing to make referrals and create access and exposure to people. So that's my words of advice because I wish someone had told me.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you, Trixie. Thank you so much for being a part of
Yes,
SheFunds
thanks.
today. I mean, it's been a I guess like a dream of mine for a while to get to sit and talk with you, and I'm glad to be able to do it virtual and also educate our whole community. So again, a huge thank you from me, and as well as Janine. She's not in the office right now; she's on the chat section. But yeah, we're so happy to
Yeah.
have you. Thank you,
Thank you
Trixie.
for having me and thank you for all you're doing. I absolutely love it. And I couldn't be a bigger fan of your guys. So
Thank
thank
you.
you so
Thank
much.
you. Of
All right.
course, of course. Thank you all. Have a good day.